It is time for a little race recap for the White Lake 70.3 over here in White Lake, North Carolina. So, we're going to do a little bit of a race recap, and then I'll go into the general reasons why I didn't perform quite as well as I expected, but also still performed exactly how I expected. It's a little bit of a weird situation, but let's jump into it. So, to kick off, this event venue itself is just fantastic. The swim location, the bike course, the run course, all of it was wow, these waves got really loud really quick. But overall, the entire course was really well mapped out. The road quality was really good. Traffic was not too bad. Um, and there was just one small mishap in the swim. So the race starts at 7 a.m., pretty standard, and is supposed to be a double loop. So we swim out that way, over, and then come back in. However, as we were planning it out, me and my buddy were looking out. And we're like, okay, it's gonna be about 400 at that buoy. You swim over, 400 back in, do the second loop. Well, turns out whoever actually planted the buoys out there planned it for a normal 70.3 distance, which is 1.2 miles. So, the race directors didn't know this. Nobody else knew this. Like, nobody was aware that the course had actually been mapped out for the correct distance in a single loop rather than a double loop. So we all, the pros start, the advanced group starts, the age group starts, and we're all swimming out there. I've got notifications on my watch that let me know every 200 meters, like that I've hit 200. That way I can, maybe go easy for a 200, go harder for a 200. It's just a good gauge. Well, I get out to the first buoy. I've already gotten 2 beeps, so I know I'm about 400 out. That checks out. Turn around the buoy, start going towards one of the in between buoys, get a beep. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. Like that's still fine. Then get another beep, and then another one, and I'm like, okay, something's not going, like something's wrong here. So I'm taking a stroke. I look down and I see that it's 1,000 in, and I haven't reached the second buoy yet. And all of a sudden, like I'm looking around, like what is going on? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, what in the world is going on? And so I keep swimming though, but I slow down just a little bit because now I'm starting to plan like this is either going to be a really short course or a really long course. End up getting to the second buoy to do the turn, and it's I think close to 13, 1400, something along those lines, and start swimming in. Keep getting my beeps. I'm like, oh my god, this is about to be trouble. The last time I looked at my watch, it said 1400. So I'm like, all right, we're about to get ready for a 5K swim here. And eventually, we come into the pier here. I'm not sure if you can see it super well, but we've got these piers here that we were entering and exiting out of, and getting into the shallow spot where we can stand and start looking around. And everyone's coming out of the water just super confused, looking like, what's going on? Like, are we doing one loop? Are we doing 2 loops? Like, is this about to be a 5K swim? Or, and they're directing people. I mean, they recognized it while we were out there, which is of course good. They couldn't do anything about it at the moment, but I mean, they had a ton of people over here ushering us to transition. They were like, nope, you know, one loop, let's go. It was spot on 1.2. Whoever placed those buoys, even though they didn't do it for the what it was supposed to be, it was spot on, and it turned out really good. I don't think anyone's actually like had major complaints. Like there was definitely some confusion going on, but it turned out to be good. It turned out to be fine, and they handled it very well for what happened. And in the moment, confusing, but in the aftermath, like I really have no complaints about it. I'm glad that they did that. I definitely preferred to have just the one loop. So it was a happy accident. Looks like we're starting to get some people in for a practice swim for tomorrow. So transition, pretty smooth, pretty clean. No complaints there. Pretty standard. The bike racks were great. Everything was spaced out well. We had plenty of room to get around people. So that was, really well planned out. The bike course itself was a double loop, and it was, I mean, spot on double loop. Super good roads, like they were clean, they were good. Um, Very minimal traffic. This is a little bit of a more remote location, and so it ended up being. It was a great. I mean, flat, maybe a couple like little false flats, little hills here, a tiny bit of wind, but overall, I mean, it was good. It was straight. It was, we had like four turns in it all together. Super well marked, which for local races sometimes you run into the issue where there's not the best markings. Um, they had great volunteers out there. They had great markings. There was never any concern about missing something, cars, any of it. I've had a lot of different experiences with local races, and this one was just spot on for the entire course, swim, bike, and run. Honestly, so coming in back into transition, pretty standard. Again, there was nothing spectacular like different about the bike. It was just flat, solid, and it was one of those rides that you could just kind of grind on. When it came down to the run, it was a double out and back as well, which was really nice because it's spectator friendly. You have lots of access to aid stations. And so that's actually something that I personally prefer, having that double out and back. It just makes it easier, lets you gauge, kind of where you're at. Um, and, if you do one loop, yeah, all of a sudden, you're like, okay, I know where everything is for that second loop, and you can just kind of like go to town on it. So double out and back again. It backtracked on some of the bike course, and so it was pretty flat, pretty standard. Nothing kind of in. I will say the one thing, there was lack of nutrition. So pretty much all the aid stations only had water or Gatorade, which is a little bit unfortunate. I was expecting there to be nutrition on there. Apparently there were gels and goos. But they weren't actually handing them out, so you had to find them on the table. And when you're competing and when you're racing and when you're just like in that mind space, it can be pretty difficult uh, to actually like go and try to find those things if they're not being handed out. And so that's really the only complaint I had. The volunteers were working overtime. I mean, they were killing it out there. They were doing a fantastic job for the amount of people that were coming through and for the volunteers that were actually out there. They were rocking and rolling. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. They were super supportive. They were cheering. They were handing things out. They did a fantastic job. And then there was a part of the run that on the loop around, you kind of come in by transition. And when I was scouting it out, I was like, I don't like this. Like, I'm not a big fan of this. But then actually during the race, it turned out to be pretty good. Like, it was not as big an issue as I thought it was going to be. So, yeah, thought it was going to be an issue. It was pretty good. It was fine. And then the finish line comes back past transition as well, right down pretty much to like this little lake beach here. And so it was a great finish. It's like in a little plaza area, so there were a lot of people already here. They had great, pretty standard food set up for post race. But overall, again, the course itself was phenomenal. I really liked it. I want to do this race again next year. I want to bring my athletes and all of the good vibes and exercise athletes down here. I got to talk with the race director, which you'll be able to find at a link at the end of the video for our short little interview about the race. So definitely make sure to stick around for that. Now for how things went, both perfectly expected and not how I wanted. Being a very competitive athlete, I'm trying to get my pro card. I've had numerous setbacks, unfortunately, between injuries, sickness, just, things happen and it sucks. And so, of course, 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I had a bike wreck. And so basically for the past 3 weeks, I've gotten in, I think, 2 rides, 2 runs, and 2 swims. Like I've had almost no training in the past couple weeks, which when you're getting ready for a race, kind of sucks. And so how this went, both expected and not, is that I came into the race with 0 expectations. It's an early season race. I wasn't going to be able to get my pro card here anyways, just because of the size and how it's structured. Like, this was not a pro race. So I was here with one of my friends. We were just doing this like for fun. And so I went in with the expectation of like, I'm just going to do this for fun. I'm going to see where I'm at. I'm going to see how I'm coming out of this injury. I ended up doing a 4:27, which I know for a lot of people is really good. And I don't want to seem like I'm humble bragging or that I'm, being arrogant or anything like that. Like, I recognize that that time itself is good, but for my personal goals, it's definitely not. Like, I want to be competing significantly faster than that time, and this was a fast course. So again, if you're looking for a fast course, this is a fast course. It is flat and is a good measure of just pure skill because of that flatness. Like, you can just come out here and grind on the run, on the swim, on the bike. Like, all of it is just, it's fast. And so to come out to this really fast course and only do a 4:27 when, you know, based on my training, everything else, I should be doing a lot faster than that, was definitely a little bit of a disappointment. But at the same time, I came in with the expectation that, you know, this is a get back. It is a post race, post accident race. And so I knew it was not going to be super ideal. I've only been on my bike twice in the last couple weeks. I didn't have my race wheels. I still have a little bit of some shoulder pain from the accident. Um, I was having some mechanical issues on my bike, which were also from the accident that didn't get fixed from the bike shop. Um, my shoes, I had the Nike Alpha Flies, and one of the AirPods on those had like bust, so my shoe was jacked up. It was just like one thing after another, just like it was just, yeah, one thing after another just seemed to like fail, no, no, just like all these things. And so mentally, it was just like a hard spot to be in. My bike was a solid, 20, 25 to 35 watts lower than I was expecting. Um, my run is actually fairly solid. Definitely not where I want it to be right now. The first 6 miles were just strong, steady, very consistent. And then the back lap, the back loop, I started slowing down a little bit. A lot of that is because of the lack of nutrition. I fueled well on the bike, but not having anything on the run really hurt me. Um, and so really into like the last 4 miles, I was able to hold on fairly well. Definitely slowed down a little bit, and then 4 miles, like the the nutrition stuff really hit me, and I noticed that, oh, I'm slowing down, oh, I'm running out of steam, and I wasn't necessarily hurting, but I was running out of steam. Um, it took about a mile for it to really set in, and then the last turnaround is at 3 miles from the end, and that's where it like, yeah, I basically hit the wall. My pace drops down to, it dropped by like a minute, and then the mile after that it dropped another minute, and then the mile after that it dropped like 2 minutes. Like, I finished slow. If you look at my if you look at my race chart, it's like steady, 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 and plummet down to the ends. Like, the last mile and a half was literally just doing everything I could just to move my body forward, which is always a difficult place to be in. But I finished the race. I got to meet some really outstanding people here. I had a really great time, and there is a possibility that I might be doing the race tomorrow too. They have multiple events here, and they have a sprint and an Olympic tomorrow. So maybe I'll do this. Maybe I won't. By the time you see this, we'll both know. So there you go. That's the race recap. Fantastic race. I recommend it to anybody out here. I'm going to put the links down below for this race, and for other races that are in this organization. I plan to do it next year. And yeah, I really, again, I recommend it to everybody. If you're looking to get into triathlon, if you are looking for a coach, I've got my coaching links down there. Good vibes and exercise. My philosophy is that, I want to help you reach your goals. I want to push you, but there is a balance, and you need to have fun while doing it. You need to know why you're doing it. And again, like, got to have some fun. So that's going to do it for this race recap. I hope you all enjoyed. And again, make sure to check out the interview linked right over here, that I did with one of the race directors from the race recap. We had a great talk, and that's going to be it.